Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're stepping into, well, a really pivotal and often challenging period in modern Indian history. We're going right back to June 25, 1975. Midnight. That's when India found itself under what's known as the emergency, a time when fundamental freedoms were basically curtailed, and the very fabric of democracy felt like it was being tested. And right at the heart of this whole dramatic chapter was Jayaprakash Narayan, or JP as most people know him. Now, he was 72 at the time, a socialist firebrand, a really formidable voice of dissent and, well, predictably one of the very first major figures to be detained. But his internment wasn't, in a typical prison. He was held at PGI-Chandigarh, which is a medical institute. And this place became the sort of unusual backdrop for a really profound personal record. His prison diary, 1975.
And that's exactly what we want to dig into today. That's our mission for this deep dive. We'll journey through this really intense period, from that initial declaration on June 25, 1975, right through to March 21st, 1977. And we'll try to experience it primarily through JP's own eyes, through his diary. It offers these raw, quite unfiltered insights into his emotional state, his political turmoil too, but also, and this is critical, his unwavering commitment to democratic principles, even facing immense personal hardship. So our goal isn't just to revisit historical facts, not like a history lesson, but really to unearth the kind of enduring lessons this whole era offers us today.
Right. And to really understand why the emergency even happened, we kind of need to set the scene a bit.
Yeah.
Go back to the early 1970s. India was grappling with, well, pretty widespread discontent. You had rampant high inflation, unemployment was soaring, poverty felt pervasive, and there was this overwhelming sense of political corruption. The atmosphere was just charged, ripe for something big to happen. And it's against this backdrop that JP's total revolution movement really started to gain traction. Now, this wasn't just a political campaign in the usual sense. It was more holistic, a vision aiming for this comprehensive transformation, social, economic, cultural, even moral spheres.
Yeah.
It was really about fundamentally reimagining Indian society.
Exactly. And that vision really resonated, especially with student protests that had kicked off in Jayaprakash back in 1974. They were echoing his calls for a complete overhaul of governance.
And the movement found this incredibly powerful symbol in his speech at Ramlila Maidan, right? On June 25, 1975, the very day before the emergency crackdown. He famously quoted the poet Ramdari Singh Dinkar, didn't he?
He did. A very famous line, he declared, Sinhasan Kali Karoki Janta Tihai, which translates to, vacate the throne for the people are coming. And that wasn't just a slogan, It became this powerful rallying cry. It spread quickly beyond Bihar, gained significant momentum in places like Gujarat, too. The movement itself became this vehicle for all those public frustrations.
Okay, so the stage is set. We have this widespread discontent, JP's powerful movement gaining ground. What was the absolute trigger? The critical turning point that led directly to the declaration of the emergency?
Well, the absolute tipping point, no question, arrived in June 1975. It was the Allahabad High Court's ruling. And this judgment was just a bombshell. It found the prime minister at the time, Indira Gandhi, guilty of electoral malpractices.
Wow.
Yeah, and the court didn't just say that. It ordered her to vacate her parliamentary seat and barred her from elections for 6 whole years.
So resignation seemed inevitable.
That's what many expected. But instead, she took this drastic, really unprecedented step. She advised the president, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, to declare a state of emergency, citing internal disturbance as the official reason. Now, this was a legal provision, but it was so sweeping. It granted the government almost unchecked power. It effectively suspended fundamental rights and brought in the Maintenance of Internal Security Act, MISA. That allowed for indefinite detentions without trial. A game changer.
And with that declaration made, the immediate aftermath brought a critical turning point for JP himself. What happened right away on the morning of June 26th?
Well, JP, already quite frail at 72, was arrested. But the government made this interesting decision. They didn't take him to a grim standard prison. Instead, he was taken to PGI-Chandigarh, that medical institute we mentioned, which was swiftly sort of repurposed into a detention center. It added this peculiar layer of formality, maybe even a kind of veiled deference.
So not quite a normal prison experience.
Not at all. Reports suggest the medical staff were courteous, professional, but security was incredibly tight. He was essentially a VIP patient under constant vigilant watch. Basically a prisoner, but under respectful house arrest, if you can call it that.
The significance of his internment there seems huge. And this is where his prison diary 1975 really comes into play, isn't it? That's where he started writing it.
Absolutely. The diary became his personal record during that time. He meticulously detailed his daily routine, yes, but also his really profound thoughts, his reflections during this isolating period. And what's fascinating, I think, is how it revealed a leader who, despite being physically cut off, remained utterly unbroken in spirit. We know from historical records, too, things like S.K. Jindal's book, Medical Encounters, and documents in the National Archives, they confirm just how closely his situation was being monitored, almost like a clinical observation of this key political figure.
And there's that intriguing, maybe unsettling detail from the time, too. Some people, like J.P. Goyle, even publicly voiced suspicions that he might have been subjected to slow poisoning during his detention.
Yes, that rumor circulated. It adds this rather disturbing, almost thriller-like layer to his story, though it remains a suspicion, not definitively proven.
Right. Let's turn to the diary itself. Those initial lines from July 24, 1975, they really convey this profound sense of despair, don't they? He wrote, "My world lies in a shambles all around me. I am afraid I shall not see it put together in my lifetime."
It's absolutely gut-wrenching, isn't it, that level of despair from a leader like him? But then just 4 days later, July 25th, he penned another incredibly powerful statement. He used this vivid metaphor.
Ah, yes, the nail in the coffin one.
Exactly. He wrote, "Every nail driven deeper into the coffin of Indian democracy is like a nail driven into my heart. I have searched my heart, and I can say truly that even if I were to die now, I would not mind it." So you see, these weren't just the laments of a defeated man. They were this profound declaration of his unwavering commitment to democracy, even, he implies, at the cost of his own life.
These entries, and thankfully many are accessible now through digital archives, they really do reveal the intensity of his emotional and political turmoil. You can almost feel the pain, the frustration. But alongside that, he clearly drew inspiration from figures like Gandhi and Nehru. And his diary didn't shy away from sharp criticisms of the government's actions, did it? What specific things did he really highlight?
He was very clear. He strongly condemned measures like forced sterilizations, which was a hugely controversial part of the population control efforts during the emergency, and also the severe press censorship. He saw these not just as bad policies, but as direct attacks, fundamental violations of human dignity and freedom. So the diary became his private platform to articulate these core democratic principles, which remained absolutely unshaken despite the despair, despite the isolation.
The lasting impact of this diary is really quite remarkable. After the emergency was finally lifted, how did it resonate? What role did it play in the political landscape then?
Oh, it became an immediate bestseller. It resonated incredibly deeply with people who were just eager to understand the true cost of those 21 months, and from a voice they deeply trusted, it really evolved into a crucial political document. It helped galvanize public opinion against the ruling party, and it cemented JP's place as this kind of moral authority for democracy, even though he wasn't actively out there campaigning anymore.
Okay, so beyond JP's personal ordeal, the emergency obviously cast this long, very profound shadow over the entire nation. How did this period truly impact everyday life, fundamental rights for ordinary people?
The impact was, well, profound is the right word. Fundamental rights, the very bedrock of democracy, were just suspended. Thousands of people were arrested under MISA, not just ordinary citizens, but prominent opposition leaders, people like Morarji Desai, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, L.K. Advani.
Major figures.
Huge figures, effectively silenced overnight. And then there was the press. Strict censorship was imposed. Only government-approved news could circulate. Think about that. Trying to get accurate information when it feels like you're only getting one side of the story, it was a severe restriction on the free flow of information, and it absolutely shaped public perception.
And you mentioned that one of the most deeply controversial policies, the forced sterilizations, part of a wider population control effort, right? This affected millions, often carried out coercively.
Yes, and it led to widespread public outcry, left deep scars on communities.
And while the government at the time claimed, economic stability during this period, that supposed stability came at a very high price. How did that impact the population generally?
It came at the cost of suppressing labor rights, for one, which fueled widespread discontent among workers, among ordinary people who felt their voices and their livelihoods were being pushed aside in the name of order. And socially, just this pervasive atmosphere of fear settled over the nation. It's hard to overstate this.
Like neighbors becoming wary of neighbors.
Exactly. Informers seemed to be everywhere, or at least the fear of them was. Silence often became the safest way for many people to express themselves, which was basically not expressing themselves at all. But, and this is crucial to remember, despite all this overwhelming oppression, resistance did persist. It went underground through pamphlets, secret publications, quiet protests. The flame of dissent was kept alive, like, resilient seeds pushing through concrete.
A powerful image. So this dramatic period finally drew to a close on March 21st, 1977. The emergency was lifted, and this led directly to the 1977 general elections, which effectively became a public referendum on the government's actions during those 21 months. The stakes couldn't have been higher. What was the outcome?
The outcome was nothing short of historic, a massive political shift. The Janata Party, which was a new coalition formed by various opposition groups coming together, decisively defeated the Congress Party. Morarji Desai became the prime minister, and this victory was attributed, in large part anyway, to JP's immense moral authority and the public's memory of his principled stand, even though he himself didn't join the government.
All right, he stayed out of formal power.
He did. It was a testament to his vision and influence, even wielded from behind bars or during his recovery.
And JP's vision, it went even further. He advocated for something quite radical, really. A partyless democracy. What exactly did he mean by that? It sounds almost revolutionary for the time.
It was revolutionary. It wasn't just a vague idea about decentralization. JP genuinely saw party politics as inherently divisive, often corrupt, and frequently a barrier to real public participation. He envisioned power flowing differently from the grassroots up through self-governing village councils, gram sabhas. His aim was a society where collective well-being would actually supersede partisan interests.
A complete reimagining that.
A complete reimagining of the democratic framework. And it's an idea that still prompts debate today about how governance should truly serve its people. He detailed it further in his 1980 book, Small Community and Total Revolution.
The diary's legacy, it really endures, doesn't it? It remains this classic text in Indian political literature, a stark, undeniable reminder of how fragile democracy can actually be. What does this historical account really stress to us today, especially when we think about, contemporary debates on civil liberties around the world?
I think it stresses the timeless importance of constant vigilance. JP's diary isn't just about his personal commitment, though that's powerful. It illustrates how, even in total isolation, a leader, or maybe even just a citizen with strong principles, can leverage reflection and moral clarity to sustain resistance against authoritarian tendencies. It offers a kind of blueprint for resilience. This whole dark chapter serves as this stark reminder of how quickly seemingly stable democracies can erode, especially under the pressure of internal dissent or when power gets too concentrated. It really urges us to critically examine similar justifications governments might use today for restricting freedoms.
Indeed. And JP himself used that profound analogy that resonates so much today. Democracy isn't something simply given. It's something that must be actively guarded, like a precious garden needing constant tending.
Exactly. It speaks volumes about our collective responsibility, doesn't it?
It really does. So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe just take a moment to reflect on what we've explored here. JP's 175-page prison diary, it's not just some historical document gathering dust. It feels like a living testament to a leader's incredible resilience, yes, but also to a nation's struggle to reclaim its soul and the enduring, often heavy cost of democracy.
It's a powerful call to action, really, for all of us listening. It encourages us to reflect deeply on the lessons learned from that period. It reiterates the absolute importance of safeguarding fundamental rights, of making sure that no more nails drive deeper into democracy's coffin, not in our time. It reminds us just how quickly civil liberties can be curtailed if we're not watchful.
And maybe here's a final thought to carry with you. If democracy truly is a garden, as JP suggested, what specific actions are we taking right now today to tend to its health? To ensure it doesn't wither under the weight of, say, complacency or just uncritical acceptance, what small acts of vigilance, what conscious choices in our own communities can actually make a big difference in ensuring its continuous bloom? Something to think about.